Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Arunachala Ramanaya. Ramana Darshana Tatvam, from the works of Sivaprakasam Pillai, one of the foremost devotees of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharishi. Synopsis of Ramana Darshana Tatvam. Sivaprakasam Pillai has done very rigorous reflection, contemplation on Bhagavan's core teaching. After obtaining answers to his questions from Bhagavan, he went to his native village Idayan Palsuri near Chidambaram and was reflecting upon the words of the Master in solitude. He has also recorded the methodology of his reflections, mananam, and his understandings in the form of prose and poetries. The three songs featured here are taken from Sivaprakasam Pillai's reflections at various times, which clearly elucidates the meaning of Ramana Darshanam. In the 29th song of a work called Seeking Grace, Arul Vendal, his urge to visit Tiruvannamalai from time to time and have darshan of Bhagavan and his laments to Bhagavan that he does not have the required money to undertake the journey to Tiruvannamalai is mentioned. In the course of the same song, he also understands that Bhagavan is in his heart and all he needs to do is surrender to him and take refuge at his feet, which he does. Bhagavan has indeed given the same assurance to all in the song Ariyadi itara jeevaradu agavarisa guhayil Arivai Rami Paramattuman Arunachala Ramanan. Arunachala Ramana is the Supreme Self, Paramatman, who blissfully exists as consciousness, pristine pure I am, in the cave of heart lotus of all different souls, beginning with Hari. On another occasion, Sivaprakasam Pillai records a stray standalone composition where he highlights with conviction that Ramana Darshanam is nothing other than knowing one's true nature. He concludes that since Ramana is always shining in one's heart cave as I am, and his darshan is nothing other than staying put in the heart without raising as the ego I, his darshan can be had from wherever one lives by turning one's attention inwards and knowing one's true nature, which is nothing other than Ramanam. Here, he gives such a great solace to people from all over the world who are unable to visit Ramanashramam in Tiruvannamalai at their will due to many obstacles such as time, money, health, etc., and explains the true import of Ramana Darshanam. This song clearly declares the meaning of Ramana Darshanam. When surrender is done, as in the previous song, Bhagavan will never forsake his devotees. This gives the strength to gain the feeling of oneness with Bhagavan, which in turn helps in the quest for self. In another stray song, standalone composition, which explains in just one song the core of Bhagavan's teaching, he reasons that it is in vain to do research, studies about the body, mind, memory, intellect, objects of the world, etc., as they are all absent during the state of deep sleep, and hence they can never be the truth, as they violate the definition of truth. One of the definition is that it can never be absent in any of the states of consciousness which all the above mentioned violates during deep sleep by their absence. He sums up that essential teaching of Bhagavan, the enquiry, who am I, which can be achieved only by giving up the examination of all the above mentioned objects and turning the attention inwards towards one's own self. He emphatically concludes that This is the only spiritual instruction or advice given by Bhagavan Ramana. This, in sum and substance, is what is known as Ramana Darshanam. Om Ramanaya Namaha.
எனக்கு நின் பதமே அல்லால் ஏனைய புகழே இல்லை. நினைத்திரு அருணை எய்தி நேரினில் இறைஞ்ச கையில் தனமில்லை எனதுளத்தில் தற்பர நீ இல்லாயோ. அனைத்தையும் அறியில்லாயோ. அடியனின் அடைக்கலமே. அனைத்தையும் அறியில்லாயோ. அடியனின் அடைக்கலமே.
Meaning of the song. Number 1. Other than your feet, I have no refuge. I don't have money in hand to visit Tiruvannamalai and pay obeisance to you. Oh my Lord, are you not in my heart? Don't you know everything? I surrender unto you. Explanatory paraphrase. Other than your feet, I have no refuge. Sivaprakasam Pillai starts by expressing his total faith in Bhagavan. I don't have money in hand to visit Tiruvannamalai and pay obeisance to you. As he has totally retired from worldly life and took up the vichara in the form of who am I as his full-time activity, he was mostly in poverty and hence could not afford visits to Tiruvannamalai from Chidambaram, which was not necessarily much, but he didn't have even that. Oh my Lord, are you not there in my heart? He seeks Bhagavan's assurance and asks him a rhetoric question. If Bhagavan was not there in his heart, as the answer to this question is yes, Bhagavan is in his heart, all he has to do is to turn inwards and surrender. Don't you know everything? This is another rhetoric question. Yes, Bhagavan knows everything. I surrender unto you. With the conviction born that Bhagavan is in his heart, he surrenders to Bhagavan.
Ramana darshanam இன்னதென்றுணர்ந்திடாமல் ரமண தரிசனத்திற்கு ஏங்கி நீ தவிப்பதென்னோ. ரமணன் ஸ்வரூபம் தானே என்னுடைய ஸ்வரூபமாகும். ரமண தரிசனம் என்னையானறிதலே. ரமண தரிசனம் தான் என்னையானறிதலே.
Meaning of the second song. Without realizing the true import of the term Ramana Darshanam, to earn and lament and despair for Ramana Darshanam is folly. My real truth, Swarupa, is not other than the truth, Swarupa, of Ramana. The meaning of Ramana Darshanam is knowing my own self. Explanatory paraphrase. Without realizing the true import of the term Ramana Darshanam, to earn and to lament and to despair for Ramana Darshanam is folly. Sivaprakasam Pillai makes us understand that the cause for pain of not being able to visit Bhagavan's ashramam in Tiruvannamalai is due to the lack of understanding of what exactly constitutes Ramana Darshanam. While it is true that visiting ashramam is one of the most beautiful form of Ramana Darshanam, It is not necessarily the only form. My real truth or Swarupa is not other than the truth of Ramana, Swarupa of Ramana. He means, based on the teachings of Bhagavan, backed by his own reflections, he concludes that Bhagavan, Paramatma, and all others, Jivatmas, are one, Ananya. Bhagavan always shines in the heart cave of Jivas as I. This is what is known as grace. The meaning of Ramana Darshanam is knowing my own self. He concludes this song by saying, with conviction that self-realization is what is known as Ramana Darshanam.
புலனென்றும் பொறி என்றும் சித்தம் என்றும் புத்தி என்றும் மனம் என்றும் அகந்தை என்றும் மலம் என்றும் விளம்பு பொருள் ஆய்தல் வீட்டு மல உடலீதுறக்கத்தில் இன்மையாலே நிலைமயுறும் அறிவுருவாய் எப்போதும் நான் நிற்கையால் உடலம் நான் என்னும் மயக்கை விலக்கிய சிஸ்வரூபம் யாது என்றுள் மூழ்கி மெய்யுணர்க ரமண உபதேசம் ஈதே அம்மயக்கை விளக்கி அச்சிஸ்வரூபம் யாது என்றுள் மூழ்கி மெய்யுணர்க ரமண உபதேசம் ஈதே மெய்யுணர்க ரமண உபதேசம் ஈதே.
Meaning of the third song, the spiritual instructions of Ramana. Due to the absence, that is non-perception, of the putrid body during deep sleep, give up the enquiry into things like the objects of senses, the five organs, the memory, the intellect, the mind, the ego, and the impurities hankering the knowledge of self. Because of the existence of I firmly as consciousness, remove the delusion of identifying the self with the body, mind, etc., and contemplate on what that conscious self is by turning inwards and realize the truth. This alone is the spiritual instruction given by Ramana. Explanatory paraphrase. Due to the absence, that is non-perception, of the putrid body that is made up of 5 sheets called food, breath, mind, intellect, and the darkness of sleep, or the 3 bodies, gross, subtle, and causal, during deep sleep, give up the enquiry into things, that is tattvas, like the objects of senses, namely sight, taste, sound, smell, and tactile sensations. The 5 organs, that is eye, tongue, ear, nose, and skin, which gains the knowledge of the above mentioned objects respectively, the memory, the intellect, the mind, the ego, and the impurities hankering the knowledge of self. That is, the mirage-like imperceptible impurities, malams, that acts on the soul. Because of the existence of I, firmly as consciousness always, as the pristine pure Sat Chit Anandam in all the 3 states, remove the delusion of identifying the self with the body, mind, etc. That is, remove the I am the body delusion arising due to the consideration of non-self as self and self as non-self, and contemplate on what that conscious self is by turning inwards. That is, by keenly focusing on the feeling called I, which is the inquiry, who am I? And realize the truth that you are never the body but always the self. This alone is the spiritual instruction or advice given by Ramana. Om Ramanaya Namaha.